Martian, and welcome to my capstone presentation, Every Scene Don't Me. I'd like to thank my family for coming to listen and my judges for also coming to listen. As I said, my capstone presentation is called Every Scene Don't Me. This metaphor focuses on the theater parts of my middle school journey and how all the aspects of theater have applied to many parts of middle school. Throughout middle school, I've been able to do different things at least lightly based on theater, and those have been some of the best experiences. So that is why I chose this metaphor. Driving questions. How do my work and experiences help shape who I am as a person? How has this helped me identify my strengths and weaknesses? How will this impact my future? 5 constructs. My constructs go in the order of collaboration, growth mindset, complex communication, critical thinking, and productivity and accountability. My first construct, as I said, is collaboration. Collaboration is working within a group to achieve a common goal. Collaboration relates with theater because if you aren't able to work with your peers, you won't be able to put on a play. My first example is speech practices. These show collaboration because no matter how we're collaborating, we always have to talk to one another or slightly communicate with one another to be able to, again, put something on or put on a show. My next example would be a presentation called Our Trip to Europe. This shows collaboration, and a very easy collaboration at that, because I'm working with a small group and it is a group of my friends. I think that I collaborate very well, and even looking at the title slide, you can just see that all of us put in effort and we made it look how we wanted and also put everything we wanted into it. My last example would be mock trial. Now, thinking of mock trial, you don't really think of it as something you collaborate for, but that's really wrong. During mock trial, at first we had to collaborate with each other to read out our binders and figure out our main points in the case. And as a witness, I had to work with a lawyer from the other side to know how to answer questions, and so he would know what questions to ask. And also on the day of competition, I had to collaborate with lawyers and everyone from other teams as a witness and answering their questions to the best of my abilities. My strengths and weaknesses. A strength I have in collaboration is that when working with a small group, I can effectively get a presentation done and make it look put together. An example of this would be a presentation, Savor the Flavor, of foodborne illnesses, and mine was staphylococcus. This one was with only one other person and a friend, so I was able to put it together and separate our slides and then put everything together very nicely. On the other hand, another presentation, but a weakness would be when I'm working with big groups of people and we don't get along and we are not able to communicate or collaborate well with one another. And a weakness, or an example of this weakness would be a presentation in social studies called The Blood Battle. This, I think, shows bad collaboration and my weaknesses especially because I was with around 5 people and none of us had the same opinions and none of us knew exactly what we wanted or how to put our ideas together, and it took us a long time to get to the point where we were, and still none of us were very happy with it. How will I use this in the future? I will use collaboration in my future to continue to broaden my friendships and become friends with more people and become closer and easier to work with all of my peers. And yeah. Construct 2, growth mindset. A growth mindset includes creativity and curiosity to generate learning. Bring out the jungle tiger and have the capacity to step outside your comfort zone and understand that you have the capacity to learn anything. How this connects to my metaphor is that you have to have a growth mindset just in theater, which I actually talk about in a couple of slides. My first example would be this windmill. Now, this doesn't look like that complex of a project, but for us, being our first time working with these parts, it was really hard to put everything together and get it to flow correctly. And I think that demonstrates growth mindset because I was able to take it apart and put it back together, and I was able to learn and grow from my past with it. My next example would be theater, which is how this connects. Now, in theater, you don't really get a choice on who you are, and you don't really get a choice on who you are and what you do. So in theater, the first around 2 days, I was playing the good guy, and then the last day, I came in when we were getting assigned our roles, my teacher told me she wanted me to play the villain. Now I had to have a growth mindset for this because in order to play something I don't want to play, I have to have that growth mindset and push myself to make the audience members think that this was like my dream role. And another part of it would be my outfit. Now, I don't prance around daily in elf shoes, vest, hat, and fake ears and a wig. So I had to have a growth mindset and being able to present myself and continue to keep my composure while wearing something that I thought was silly. My next example would be the capstone preparation presentation. And I chose this one because we had a designated time limit of 5 to 7 minutes, and we are being very harshly graded on this presentation. Now, it was hard for me, but I was able to get over it because I was presenting it about my great-grandma. And I really like this example because I know that it was very hard for me to get myself up there, but when I finally started talking about her and how much she inspires me, I was able to just flow through around 6 minutes of presentation without even thinking about how long I was going. Strengths and weaknesses. My strength and growth mindset is that I'm able to take things apart and pick them back up and continue to build myself up and build things up better and better. An example of this would be the car we had to build in robotics class. This was taken apart at least 3 times within a week period, and it doesn't look that hard, but for me, for us, it really was hard, and I think that is a good example of how my growth mindset helps me in projects. A weakness I have, as you can tell, this is not very good, and I think a weakness I have in growth mindset is being open to do things creatively. This specific project is the Frankenstein alternate ending graphic novel page in ELA, and I procrastinated this and did not want to do it for so long, and I think it really shows where I need improvement on my growth mindset. How will I use it in my future? A growth mindset in my future will be used to continue to learn and grow and expand outside of my box. Construct 3, complex communication. Complex communication is based on the successful sharing of information through multiple means that include visual, digital, verbal, and nonverbal interactions. How this relates to my metaphor is you have to have all of these, digital, verbal, nonverbal, and visual, you have to have all of them together to be able to put on a show or a play or anything really in theater. My first example would be the SpongeBob trial. This one I think shows complex communication because not only with my voice am I able to tell them that I think I know what I'm saying, but with the body language that you see here is I look angry and like I know what I'm saying. And I think that's important because during a trial you have to at least make the other team believe that you know what you're saying, even if you yourself don't believe you know what you're saying. My next example would be a speech performance. Now I chose this one because it goes with the visual aspect because I had to pretend to climb up the ladder and lay on a bed that previously was the kitchen table. And I had to be able to show everyone visually that I'm actually climbing up a ladder and laying on the bed and tossing and turning, and that I'm not just fooling around laying on the kitchen table. My last example would be the Frankenstein trial. And I chose this one as a more communicative with my group. All of us were able to communicate our ideas so easily and put together that we all were reading off of it and it sounded like it was wrote by the same person. Like all of us were able to demonstrate our ideas put together so nicely that you would believe it if we told you it was an essay made by one person. Strengths and weaknesses. A strength I have in complex communication is more visual cues and nonverbal interactions with body language. An example of this would be the radio project we had to do for mid-semester. This showed the visual and nonverbal interactions because we weren't allowed to talk when it wasn't our time, but we had to be able to cue others to tell them that it was their time to talk. A weakness I would have would be that I'm not very good at communicating verbally, and I jumble my words and just don't like communicating outside of my comfort zone. An example of this would be this bacteria presentation for science. This one I didn't communicate on because first of all, we did it wrong, and then we had to redo it. None of us could communicate well enough with each other to when we needed to redo it. So all of us just kind of did different little parts of it, which is why, and then we didn't work together or communicate on it. How will I use in my future? Complex communication will be used in my future to not only be able to communicate well with others and be trusted for my communication, how well I am at it, but also picking up body movements and visual cues from other people. Construct 4 is critical thinking. Critical thinking is the ability to incorporate key information to develop solutions to complex problems. How this connects to theater is because if something happens, you have to be able to think quick on your feet and make a change to the mistake right away. My first example would be the color group. This one I think shows critical thinking because we had almost a month to do it, and only 2 of us got together, and it was around a day or 2 before we actually had to present. And this was really hard because I had no clue what I wanted to do for our group, and again, we were missing most of our group trying to think. So I had to think quick and know what to do and be able to connect it to my group well enough that I was able to go up there and present it as good as I could. My next example would be this game we had to do in speech. This game we had to put our hands in the middle and grab hands with someone randomly. And I use my critical thinking here because, as you can tell, I'm the one that's out of the circle with my hands out like that. And you can tell that I've already escaped from the rest of the group. And I use my critical thinking there because I was able to know what I had to do to get out right away. And then I was able to help everyone else as well. My last example would be a presentation in social studies called Why Our Gardens Grow. This one needed critical thinking because it was about a political party that I hadn't even heard about prior to doing this, and I had to make it seem like a children's book. So not only did I have to connect a political party that I didn't know and have to learn all this information about it, I had to be able to create a book presentation and then make it seem like it was made for a kid. Strengths and weaknesses. A strength that I have in critical thinking, again, is that I'm able to think quick on my feet and know what to do when problems arise. An example of this would be in Boji theater class, I had to build props for the high school musical. And doing this, after we had built one of our props, one of our teammates broke it, and I had to think on my feet and know how I needed to glue it, how I needed to repaint it, and how I needed to do everything to put it back together. And again, with the for weaknesses, again, with the creative stuff, I think that a weakness in critical thinking is that I'm not able to think as well as I should creatively. And this is my example. This is the dystopian one-pager for ELA. And not only do I just not like it, I just don't think that it shows any critical thinking, and I just kind of threw stuff on there. And I'm not very proud of it, and I know I need to improve myself like that. How will this help me in the future? Using critical thinking in the future will help me solve complex problems quick and effectively. But it'll also hopefully help me be better at thinking creatively and knowing what to do more often. My last construct would be productivity and accountability. Productivity and accountability is demonstrating initiative, self-direction, and personal responsibility to create quality results. Students demonstrate time management, personal integrity, and self-monitoring. This relates to my metaphor because in theater you have to show up every single day to practices, because if you don't, you won't be able to memorize your lines, or you won't be able to know what props to pick up, when to set them down. You won't be able to know where to walk on stage or who to talk to. And you have to know all of these things to put something together and be able to collaborate with your team. My first example would be book goals. Now, I was always very accountable on my book goals, and there wasn't a time where I didn't turn them in. But I chose this specific quarter because this shows not only me being accountable with my book goals, but being very productive with my extra time. Now, my book goal I set for myself was 4, and not even counting the class book that we had to read, I got 6 books. And then obviously counting the class book, I got 7. And this shows productivity because I was able to read during all of my free time and push myself to finish books. This shows me being accountable because I was able to turn it in on time and get them done like enough time apart. These two I didn't read a day apart, but like it's a month apart with that one, and I feel like that just shows me being like knowing that I have to get a book done by a certain time, and then yeah. My next example would be current events. Now this one taught me more of a lesson in productivity and accountability than any of them, and as you can see, it's 5 half sentences or just a couple of words really. Now, looking at this, you wouldn't think that it matters that much, and that's what basically the entire 7th grade thought last year, and probably 7th graders every year. But doing this and learning about it, I had to be productive and only use 10 minutes out of my day to finish this. And I had to be accountable with them because if I wasn't, it'd take a huge toll on my grade. Even if I was acing every test that I got and everything else, not doing current events took a ton away from my grade because they're a weekly thing. And this really showed me that even little things make a difference, and I can also use that as a lesson in so many more things in life. My last example would be softball or any sport or extracurricular, because being productive in this sport or in a sport means you're showing up to practice and you're trying to push yourself to be better than you were the day before. Being accountable means showing up for practice every single day and pushing yourself to be there as much as you can. A strength and weakness. A strength I have in productivity and accountability is when I know I have to get something done by that day, I'll get it done. And an example of this would be the Holocaust essay in language arts. We had to do this on Amplify, meaning we had to do small sections every single day, and doing those was really easy because I know that I had to be productive enough to get one singular part done, and if I wasn't accountable with it, I'd be behind and have to make it up the next day and then be behind on what I had to do the next day. And a weakness I have is when I have to have something done by a specific due date that is far in the future, like a couple months, like book goals and nonfiction articles are. And I know this is a weakness because I wasn't productive with my time, and I was accountable. I did turn them all in on time, but I wasn't productive enough, and I didn't try that hard on them, and I just need to get better at stuff like that. How will I use this in my future? Using productivity and accountability and knowing the lessons I have now learned, I know that I need to be accountable, and even doing little things makes such a huge difference in a project or in someone's life, and I will use these as I continue on. My next steps are continuing to work hard and take classes outside of my comfort zone. I can tie my plans to my metaphor because just like theater, the future requires me to be prepared and put in effort. Overall, these years have helped me shape who I am and who I want to become. My metaphor connects because like theater, my life is built through teamwork and growth. As I continue into high school and beyond, I will continue to build myself one step at a time, just like a performance is built. Thank you. Are there any questions?